There are, says the government, 200 large housing development sites ready to go if only somebody would let developers build. That's the premise of Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner's latest plan to get developers dancing to her tune. I'm David Thame, Analysis Editor at Place North. In today's Place podcast, we'll look at Rayner's chances of getting the housing market moving to her beat. We'll also enjoy some 2021 nostalgia as the shed market returns to form and wonder why inflation is good when it's rents, but bad when it's anything else. Angela Rayner, said the witty headlines after Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner was TikToked throwing some shapes behind the DG booth during a holiday jaunt to Spain. But this silly season story had a point because Rayner really does want to dance with developers as she tries to meet ambitious housing targets. The latest plan is called the New Homes Accelerator. It's about providing resources to local councils to speed up decisions on the larger, trickier sites. A document issued by the department said a lack of planning department capacity and misaligned incentives for other public bodies and statutory consultees has created a process with huge uncertainty. The New Homes Accelerator wants to work with the planning system, not against it, to get things moving on up to 300,000 new homes. A site in Liverpool is in the first wave. This is probably Central Docks, where Peel Waters has secured a £55 million investment from Homes England as part of a 2,350 home scheme. Meanwhile, Ms Rayner's team is unblocking from another direction by waving through some very large and controversial housing schemes. Proposals dating from 2022 for 1,500 homes on green belt land close to Snipperley Farm, Durham, was approved on appeal this week, along with 3 further applications for the same site for another 800 homes. Planning Minister Matthew Pennycook's decision letter whacked the ball right out of the court. Ministers may have to step in a lot more. For instance, keep an eye on plans for 278 homes at Stockport's Gatley Golf Club. Despite officer recommendations to approve a 44-acre scheme, councillors voted to say no. The proposal for the disused course include 50% affordable homes and roughly half the land was to remain open space. So it's hard to know what would please local politicians. Presumably the answer is nothing on that site. But look too towards Liverpool's Festival Gardens for proof that any amount of planning permission will not guarantee a start on site. Now, this 28-acre slice close to the river and public transport looks good and has been expensively remediated to make it ready for about 1,500 homes. After 5 years preparing the site, the council is seeking a developer. It comes after many false starts in this immediate neighbourhood, with some unkind below-the-line commenters suggesting it wasn't a developer the council needed, but a fairy godmother. The difficulty for Angela Rayner is a fundamental one. The Town and Country Planning Act 1947 was devised precisely to stop developers simply responding to market forces. Higher national destinies and local aspirations were given a veto. Since then, efforts have been made to reshape the planning system to serve the market rather than curb it, but it remains what it always was. To complain that the planning system doesn't respond smoothly to economic needs is to confuse a feature with a bug. Now, the 1947 Act was a compromise. It wasn't quite the full land nationalisation some wanted. So whilst the planning system's refusals are absolute, and no really means no, when it grants consent, it is merely permission to build, not an instruction. This lopsided approach is where the problems begin, because handing out a limited supply of planning consents inevitably confers special value on consented land, value it wouldn't have if the state hadn't limited supply of consented land in the first place. This pushes up land prices. At the same time, no developer, big or small, is going to do anything that doesn't pay, and that includes flooding the market with houses, something they won't do because it would reduce their prices. Drip, drip, drip is safer for developers. So the market's caught in a vice between steeper land prices caused by the government and developers' reluctance to dent their own market pricing because, among other things, land is so expensive. This is not a recipe for mass housing starts. In short, if the government wants more or cheaper houses, it has to build them itself, and it doesn't want to do that, so we go round and round in circles. This podcast has yet to meet a planning consultant or private sector development that hasn't said this, or something like this, often in despair. It's no surprise in the northwest that housing starts dipped by 5% in 23-24, and nationwide the housing market is producing about half the government's 300,000 a year target. State planning for housing output is as likely to be successful as state planning for tractor production. But ho-hum, here we go again. And now your regular rundown of what's going up and what is heading the other way in the Place North elevator. Doors closing, going up. The disconnect between what the property market thinks are good things and what everyone else thinks are bad things is never greater than on price inflation. According to real estate folk, rising rents are good. For the rest of the economy, this is a case of painful inflationary pressure. This week, Knight Frank said in public what everyone says in private, which is that Leeds prime office rents will hit £40 a square foot this year. Today, top rents hover around £38 a square foot. There's space under offer at £39 a square foot, and it's not genius-level market analysis to see where things go next. Strong first quarter take-up and okay second half take-up underpin the confidence that the only way is up. Around 193,000 square feet of Grade A floor space is on the market today in Leeds, with another 430,000, give or take, coming in the not very many months to 2026. Top of the market, high amenity floor space drives a market, and Leeds is being driven well, if it means pushing rents up and filling new space. But the balancing cratering of demand at slightly lower levels across the UK means the risk is that a busy Grade A scene, supported by a slightly flaky hardcore of Grade B and Grade C deals, isn't really what the economy needs. Remember when you were all humming along to a young-looking Ed Sheeran's Bad Habits? What about Olivia Rodrigo with her #1 awards for Good For You and Sour? Where's she today? And COVID, what was all that about? Yes, let's wallow in 2021 nostalgia, particularly 2021's fascination for high-value shed developments. A lot has changed since 2021. And for a year or two, it felt like the whole warehouse property scene was exhausted or sleeping. Suddenly, it's back. A string of big Midlands developments is now being matched by some movement in the north. Encouraged by deals such as Green King's signing of a 300,000 square foot deal at a Tritax unit in Rochdale, construction of the 420,000 final Omega West unit, and the completion of schemes like Peel Port's 237,000 Alexandra Dock in Liverpool, the market is beginning to pick up speed. The smaller end of the scene is already rolling, with Logicor at work on a 43,000 square foot unit in Altrincham. Investors sniff a rising market, with joint venture partners KKR and Mirastar leading the list of those scenting an opportunity. It acquired 2 units in Sheffield and others in Salford, Crewe and Liverpool, totalling 190,000 square feet. The largest, a 346,000 square foot unit, was in Smithywood, Sheffield, and it's let to Advanced Supply Chain Group. That's all good news if you're interested in sheds, and that's it for today. We've learned how to party with Angela Rayner, discovered that not all inflation is bad inflation as far as landlords are concerned, and wondered why Ed Sheeran hasn't written nostalgically about the early 2020s warehouse scene. For more about the built environment in the north, visit placenorth.co.uk. I'm David Thame, and thank you for listening.